Sıradaki konuşmacımız EMEA'den Werner Heeren. Kendisini alkışlarınızla sahneye davet ediyorum.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Werner. I'm Belgium national living in Dubai. So another 10 minutes in English. IEM, who is IEM? IEM is a Singapore-based company. Our main business is testing, handling, and production of integrated circuits, ICs, chips. I think they are a lot in the news nowadays. If you follow the news a little, NVIDIA growing significantly, AMD, Intel, call it. These are our main customers for our main business. These machines are not small. I always say, hey, we are in the high frequency, low voltage, while maybe some other manufacturers, tester manufacturers, are on the high voltage and low frequency. Singapore-based, we are on the stock exchange. Most of the team, they come originally from HP, which is now called Keysight. So good reference, and they brought the knowledge to the company. The big buzzword is Internet of Things. You try to connect all kinds of things to each other, of course, through the data center. Data center can be set up. I'm sure my colleagues have been talking about it. You have a centralized layout. You have end-of-row layout, where you have your switches at the end of the row, where you have on the rows itself still some copper cabling, and you connect them to your main back switch with fiber connection, or you have what they call a top-of-rack. Bottom line, in all these different setups, you have a combination of copper and fiber connections through the different rows and the switches. So we say, hey, don't you need then something that can deal with all these different kinds of connectivity, copper and fiber, and maybe wireless, or you do not want wireless in a data center? A few, what I call examples, just to go to the point, a few scenarios in the data center, what could happen, or make sure that in case this happens, that you are prepared for it. For example, for some applications, I think about video security, for example, where you do want to do some streaming, you need specific speeds. So make sure you do get the speed. There are now standards that define IEEE standards, which are different than the TIA and the ISO standards, for those who know. Yeah, the IEEE standards, they define 2.5, 5, and 10 gigabit. So we say, hey, should you not test against that speed? Because TIA Cat6a, for those who know from the installer side, it does not always give you guarantee that you do get that speed. So test against the speed in a more realistic environment where there is also power over Ethernet running over your cable. Because power over Ethernet, power can heat up the cable a little bit and can change the composition of the cable. Another topic, as I mentioned, in these different data center setups, you can have a mix of copper and fiber. So you should check and test your fiber. Not only your loss and that everything is still within the specifications. If there are some issues, do troubleshooting with an OTDR tester. And you see now more and more, just my colleague of Comscope was here, so they have new applications being implemented, which is called hybrid powered fiber. It's a combination of fiber and two copper wires to deliver the power to the sensors that need power. Yeah? Should you not be able to test it? Here is set up so you can measure your fiber loss and at the same time the copper connection on that same cable. So it's one cable with two systems in it, copper and fiber in one cable. Why having two separate cable systems for one device? Join it or connect it in the same cable. That's why it's called hybrid powered fiber. Make sure that your tester can test this. Here you see a picture, so it's connecting the fiber and the copper wires to the same cable to do this combined testing, and show it on the reports in case you would like to show them. Fiber inspection, I think many people know that. Fiber, 50% of the cases when something is not working, it's just dirt on the fiber end face. So make sure your fiber is clean. But how do you know it's clean? By measuring it using microscopes on your fiber end face. And if it's dirty, of course, do some cleaning. We have seen in some situations where in data centers there is a lot of noise and a lot of cables. And if you want to trace the cable, one of the possible solutions is using what they call a cable tracer. Yeah? You put a tone on the cable and then you try to trace it. But with all the noise around and all the cable systems together, it's not always easy to still listen to the sound and knowing on which cable am I now. So why not just connecting it to your cable, and that the instrument will tell you, hey, I am connected to that specific port in this specific switch, or let the LED blink on the switch port. Let's make sure that your tester can do that in case you need to follow or trace the cable. Network visibility, another situation where you want to know, hey, who is all on my network, especially security. I think it's also a hot topic nowadays, intrusion detection, security on your network. Also know who is on the network so that you can discover who's on the network, who is it, get as much as possible information, not only on the wired, but also on the wireless side. Yeah. Some data centers, maybe you do not want wireless, again, for security reasons. So how do you know that there is no wireless? So you should check the wireless to see that there is no wireless. And if you do allow wireless, make sure, again, that you can test it and troubleshoot for signal strength or connectivity. Yeah. VLANs, I'm sure those in data centers know you want to separate the communication in different VLANs. You have your physical infrastructure, but you have your different divisions, the sales department, accounting, whatever. So how can you see that who is using most of your network? And maybe you should then rebalance. So make sure that your same instrument can see, hey, how is my load on the different VLANs? And you can eventually check and test to see how the behavior will happen if you would add more devices on your network. To add on that, so if, especially in data centers, you also want to say, hey, what will happen if tomorrow, next year, in 2 years, more and more devices will be connected on my network, in my data center. So make sure you can do some traffic generation and see how the data center, how your switches, how your network will behave in the data center. How far can you still go, or how much you have to plan, budget for the next years for further expansion in your network. Because more and more people, as you know, they want to be on their mobile phones and see more and more videos, and it cannot go fast enough. Another one, the eighth scenario, power over Ethernet. More and more devices are getting connected to the network. So I think it's important, or we believe it's important, to really know what is the availability at your endpoint for the power that you need. Because the switches have some power available, let's say, but how much do you really have available at the endpoint? So here you see, for example, you measure the power on a cable. It gives you what they call the allocated, the program power, but how much do you really have if you would stress test and load the network with some power over that network? This could be, you see in this case, 67 watts is less than the 71, which is programmed on the switch port. It can happen. Or it happens sometimes that some cameras do not work anymore because you don't have enough power. Some applications we have seen that maybe you should, or you want to monitor in function of the time. It all works fine at a certain specific moment, but then 30 minutes later, the camera is not working. So how make sure that your tester can also monitor in function of the time. Of course, everything can be documented on paper if you need. We got a request, can it be in PDF? Of course, in PDF, reachable through the cloud, just to show in case something happens later on that you also can prove, hey, it was not me who changed it, because, you know, the blame game. If something goes wrong, someone will be blamed for the problem that is happening. A few more remarks. We see often these network managers, IT managers, data center owners, they have to choose. Should I buy all these different equipments for the different applications and systems on my data center, or should I maybe buy just one device, which saves me on training time, on user interface, and just have a modular system, which we as IAM can provide. So, in case you are looking for a test system on your data center, make sure it can do copper and fiber, wired and wireless network connectivity, check the switches, measure the real speed, do some VLAN discovery, and power over Ethernet load testing. That's why we have these testers. You have the Test Pro that I call for more certification for the installer. Once the installation is done, the data center owner just needs to troubleshoot. You see it looks similar, but this is just one unit. For this one, you will need 2 units. Okay? That was my presentation. Thank you.